He is, without a doubt, one of the greatest individuals to have ever graced the squared circle, and really is to be compared to none. He's in the universe all of his own. I'm talking about the one and only Bobby Lashley. I'm Todd Tanner. This is Wrestling News Now. Well, let's get right down to his story. Who is Bobby Lashley? Franklin Roberto Lashley was born on July 16, 1976. Is an American professional wrestler, mixed martial artist, and bodybuilder. He is currently signed with WWE World Wrestling Entertainment, where he performs on the Raw brand under the ring name Bobby Lashley, and is the current WWE United States Champion in his third reign. He is an 8-time world champion, having been a 2-time WWE champion, a 2-time ECW world champion, and 4-time Impact World Heavyweight champion. Lashley is also known for his mixed martial arts, where his MMA career in Bellator MMA and Strikeforce. So who is he? Lashley debuted in WWE in 2005, appearing on the SmackDown brand, where he became a 1-time United States champion. After being drafted to the EC brand the following year, Lashley became a 2-time ECW champion, the first African American to hold the championship. During his time, he had a high-profile rivalry with company chairman Vince McMahon, which included representing Donald Trump in the Battle of the Billionaires at WrestleMania 23 before leaving the company in 2008. He subsequently pursued a career in MMA, mixed martial arts, and had his first professional fight in December 2008. After amassing a career record of 10-2, he signed with Bellator MMA in 2014, where he won all 5 of his career bouts from 2014 to 2016. In 2009, Lashley began appearing in professional wrestling promotion TNA, later renamed to Impact, where he became a 4-time TNA/Impact World Heavyweight Champion, and the first African American to hold that championship. He was also a 1-time X Division champion and the final King of the Mountain champion. After returning to WWE in 2018, he was assigned to the Raw brand, becoming a 2-time Intercontinental champion and winning a 2nd and 3rd United States championship. He ultimately won the WWE championship twice, becoming the 3rd African American to hold the WWE championship after The Rock and Kofi Kingston. He has headlined multiple pay-per-view events for WWE and TNA/Impact, including the 2016 edition of the latest flagship event, Bound for Glory. He is also one of the 2 wrestlers to have won the WWE, ECW, and TNA/Impact World Championships, the other being Rob Van Dam. Lashley is the only wrestler to have multiple reigns with the aforementioned championships. Franklin Roberto Lashley was born in Junction City, Kansas, on July 16, 1976, the son of a U.S. Army drill sergeant. Lashley is of Panamanian descent. He grew up in a single-parent household with a mother who barely spoke English and struggled to secure a job. He has 3 older sisters, one of whom is still on active service in the U.S. Air Force as of 2015. The family occasionally moved from one military base to another. While his father was stationed at Fort Riley in Kansas, Lashley attended Fort Riley Middle School, where he was introduced to amateur wrestling in 7th grade as an off-season alternative to football. He later graduated from Junction City High School, where he continued to wrestle. He attended Missouri Valley College, where he was the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletes, the National Wrestling Champion in the 177 pounds category in 1996, 1997, and 1998, and graduated in 1999 with a bachelor's degree in Human Service Agency Management and Recreation Administration. He followed his father into the United States Army after college and continued to compete in amateur wrestling in the Army's world-class athlete program. Doing 3 years in the Army, he won a gold and silver medal in the International Military Sports Council Senior Freestyle Wrestling event. In 2003, while living and training in Colorado Springs with the goal of qualifying for Team USA to wrestle at the 2004 Olympic Games, Lashley witnessed a bank robbery and was forced to dive for cover to avoid gunfire. This resulted in a knee injury that required surgery, ending his amateur career. In mid-2005, we're talking about his World Wrestling Entertainment years from 2005 to 2008, along with the United States Championship from 2005 to 2006. In mid-2005, Lashley appeared at 4 live events for World Wrestling Entertainment, wrestling in dark matches for both the Raw and SmackDown brands. On September 23, 2005, he made his televised WWE debut as a face on SmackDown. That is the good guy. Under his real name, he was introduced as a 3-time National Amateur Wrestling Champion, a 4-time All-American, a 2-time Air Forces champion, and a 2002 silver medalist at the Military World Championship. In his first match, he defeated Simon Dean. In his pay-per-view debut at No Mercy, he defeated Dean once again. Lashley went on to defeat numerous superstars, both on SmackDown and Raw. On the November 11 episode of SmackDown, Lashley defeated Orlando Jordan in a qualifying match for a place on Team SmackDown at Survivor Series, where he was the first to be eliminated. Prior to this elimination, Lashley was dominating the Raw superstars, showcasing various power moves and a finisher on Carlito. Yet, a choke slam from Kane, who was on the apron, caused Lashley to be eliminated by Shawn Michaels. Team SmackDown went on to win. On January 6, 2006, Lashley became the first SmackDown wrestler to qualify for that year's Royal Rumble. At the Royal Rumble, Lashley was the 8th wrestler to enter the match, in which he eliminated Sullivan. But he was then eliminated by the combination of Raw's then World Tag Team Championship Big Show and Kane. I told you this man was awesome. It took 2 to eliminate 1 man. Following the Royal Rumble, Lashley began a feud with John Bradshaw Lakefield, leading up to a match at No Way Out, where Lashley suffered his first loss in singles competition, largely due to the interference from Finlay. This prompted a feud between Lashley and Finlay, which lasted throughout February and March, and it notably included a lumberjack match. That's where all the wrestlers are around the ring to ensure that there's nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. Like that song, nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. So it was a lumberjack match on the March 17 episode of SmackDown, which Finlay won after using a shillelagh. After winning their last chance, a battle royal, on the March 24 episode of SmackDown, by Lashley eliminating MNM. Lashley competed at his first WrestleMania 22, in the Money in the Bank ladder match, which was won by Rob Van Dam. Lashley next entered SmackDown's 2006 King of the Ring tournament. He made it to the finals, defeating Mark Henry and Finlay in the process. However, in the 3rd round, held at Judgment Day, he was defeated by Booker T with help from Finlay. As Booker was being crowned during his coronation, Lashley speared Booker into the throne. These acts developed into a feud with the newly named King Booker and the other members of his court, Queen Shamel, Finlay, and William Regal. During this feud, Lashley won his first professional wrestling championship by defeating JBL for the United States Championship on the May 26th episode of SmackDown, which he lost to Finlay a little less than 2 months later on the July 14th episode of SmackDown. Lashley later joined forces with Batista against the Court. Shortly after losing the United States Championship, a physician declared Lashley unable to compete, stating that during an annual exam, Lashley was found to have elevated enzymes of the liver and therefore would not be cleared to wrestle until further evaluation. Lashley returned a couple of weeks later to the SmackDown roster to continue his feud with the Court and went on to earn his first match for the World Heavyweight Championship at No Mercy against King Booker. The bout was subsequently turned into a four-way bout, also including Batista and Booker's ally Finlay. King Booker won the match after pinning Finlay. This is to be continued because there's so much to talk about. So stay tuned. Bobby Lashley, the one and only. In the next edition of Wrestling News Now, I'll be talking about his ECW years. For Wrestling News Now, I'm Todd Tanner.